As a shadow fell over our people, my hands worked in secret. I wove bulrushes and sealed them with pitch, crafting not just a basket, but an ark, a vessel of life against a cruel decree. The reeds of the Nile were our only allies. My heart was breaking as I placed him in her arms. Her tears were silent prayers. This was our only chance. Go quickly, Miriam, I whispered. May the God of our fathers guide him to safety. From the tall reeds, I watched, my breath held tight. The ripple in the water signaled his arrival near the princess. When she ordered the basket brought to her, my heart pounded. Would she show mercy, or would she enforce her father's law? There it was, gently rocking amidst the papyrus, a hidden truth of the Nile. It was not a crocodile or a standard offering, but something precious. Something I knew, in that very instant, I had to claim as my own. 5 years old. He ruled this courtyard as if it were his dominion. While the empire grew on the backs of slaves, my son's biggest worry was which toy to command next. I called him Moses, drawn from the water, but to me, he was simply the light of my life. 10 years. Now a true noble of Egypt. His mind sharpened by scholars, his future secure. He studied the history of a land that wasn't his, yet he commanded the respect of every general. He was destined for greatness, but I could still see the Hebrew child in his eyes. 15. A man, near ready to assume command. He has seen the might of Egypt firsthand, and the burden of rule sits naturally on his shoulders. The Nile yields its secrets to him, the empire is at his feet. A true prince, ready to shape destiny. The whispers from the mud-brick quarters had grown into a roar inside me. You call her mother, I said, my voice tense. But the world calls her queen. Tell me the truth, nurse. Who is my mother? And who are my people? And so, I told him everything. The decree. The basket. The princess on the bank. I did not abandon you, my son, I said, reaching for that weathered ark. I saved you. This basket was your first palace. We are Hebrews, Moses. We are slaves. And you are our hope. That truth ignited a fire I could not control. When I saw that taskmaster beat my brother, beat a Hebrew, the Prince of Egypt died within me. My hand did not hesitate. The empire built on blood saw its first cracks that day. I chose my people. And Egypt chose me as an exile. In a single afternoon, the Prince of Egypt became a murderer, a fugitive, and a ghost. Driven by fear and a sudden, violent awakening to his true bloodline, Moses fled the only home he had ever known, trading the gold of palaces for the merciless judgment of the deep desert. An exile can flee his country, but he cannot flee his nature. In the wilderness of Midian, the instinct of a protector remained. Defending the daughters of Jethro, a stranger in a strange land found what he lacked in Egypt, a purpose rooted in justice, not oppression. Decades dissolved in the quiet valleys. The politics of empires and the cries of the brickyards faded into the steady, rhythmic life of a shepherd. Here, Moses learned the patience required to guide the stubborn, the weak, and the lost. The palace had made him powerful. The desert was making him humble. Moses, do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Out of the fire, the silence of 40 years was broken. A shepherd was called to become a deliverer, bound by an ancient covenant to a nation he thought he had left behind. He left Egypt running for his life. He returned marching for the lives of millions. Joined by his brother Aaron to speak the words his own hesitant tongue could not manage, Moses stepped back into the jaws of the empire that once claimed him. The shepherd now stood before the living God of Egypt. No longer seeking a place in this palace, and no longer afraid of its wrath, he delivered a message from a higher authority. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. But Pharaoh refused. So plagues started. First, the Nile itself, the lifeblood of Egypt, turned to literal blood. Dead fish floated where fresh water should have been. The sacred river had become a source of death. Next, an invasion from the river. Frogs, thousands, perhaps millions, covered every surface. They swarmed the streets and steps of ancient Egyptian villages, a relentless, amphibious pestilence. From the dust, another torment. An oppressive, shimmering cloud of uncounted gnats, or was it lice? This tiny, invasive dust-borne nightmare infiltrated every marketplace, causing unceasing suffering. Then came the swarms. Not just annoying insects, but terrifying, diverse swarms of flies and stinging creatures. They darkened the sky at twilight, creating natural distress for both man and beast. After the swarms, a plague on the very foundation of wealth, livestock. Countless Egyptian cattle, camels, and sheep lay dead and dying under a warm, hazy sun. Grief filled the agricultural fields, yet the Israelite herds, visible on a distant ridge, were untouched. The suffering became personal. An unsparing epidemic hit the bodies of the Egyptians. Commoners and even a priest, faces and limbs covered in severe, raised, pus-filled boils. There was no escape for the tormentors. Pharaoh refused again. And so, nature was summoned. This time, from above. A dramatic view shows the sky turning into a weapon. Large, irregular hailstones raining down with such intense force that they split the darkness of the twilight, mingled with streaks of fiery, burning embers. Buildings crumbled. Civilians fled. If anything green remained, the eighth plague devoured it. Billions of locusts formed a monstrous, unstoppable living carpet. They moved like a catastrophic, swirling funnel of insects, devouring every green thing. Then came the profound psychological plague. Egypt plunged into an eerie, supernatural, palpable darkness. It was a gloom so thick, objects were difficult to discern. While Egyptians groped blindly with weak lamps, visible across a clear boundary, daylight was untouched in the Israelite homes of Goshen. It all built toward the 10th plague, the ultimate reckoning. The final, quiet horror. On a residential street at dawn, the raw emotion. Grieving Egyptian families huddle, weeping at unmarked doorways. But next door, dark red, textured blood splashes mark the lintels and doorposts, distinguishing the Israelite home spared by the angel of death. The chains were broken. Pharaoh finally declared the freedom Moses demanded. The vast, dense procession of thousands of people, the Israelites, beginning their journey out of Egypt. Freedom was within grasp, but one final miracle was required. As the Egyptian army pursued them, Moses was commanded to act. The water itself obeying the Almighty. The Red Sea did not just open, it parted with dynamic force. Towering walls of turbulent blue-green water, hundreds of feet high, held back on both sides, creating a path. Through this canyon of liquid force, the vast column of thousands of Israelites, led by Moses with his staff, marches onto dry ground, delivered from the very sea that had held them captive. Freedom had finally arrived.